Good morning and welcome to Tuesday morning's Toolbox Talk. Today we're going to cover storm safety, so high winds, heavy rain in construction sites. So the purpose of the talk then, so storm-related incidents are a leading cause of injuries, equipment damage and project delays on construction sites. High winds and heavy rains can rapidly change site conditions, making normal tasks extremely dangerous. This talk is designed to ensure everyone understands the hazards, controls, stop work criteria, and their responsibilities before, during, and after storm events. So, weather-related hazards. So, storm conditions can introduce or worsen the following. So, flying debris, so plywood, tools, rebar caps, insulation and tarps. Loss of balance and falls from heights, scaffold, formwork, temporary structures instability, crane and lifting operation failure or load swing, equipment overturning, so it could be telehandlers, lifts, excavators, and reduced ability to communicate due to noise. So that's for high winds. During heavy rains, you can have slippery walking and working surfaces, muddy access routes and vehicle loss of control, flooded excavations and trenches, trench walls that could then collapse due to saturated soil, electric shock from wet tools, cores and panels, and poor visibility which would affect traffic control and equipment operations. So there is a wind speed guideline, but obviously every site will be different, but always follow manufacturer's limits and your company policies. But typical guidance could include winds for 20 to 25 miles per hour. You should be looking at securing loose materials and use caution with elevated work. 25 to 30 miles per hour, you should stop work on scaffolds, ladders, roofs and elevated platforms. And then wind speeds of 30 plus, you should stop crane, hoist and lifting operations, suspend non-essential work. And on the gusting, which is obviously going to be a lot stronger, you should treat gust as sustained winds when making decisions. If in doubt, stop work and notify supervisors. But any good site should have foresight into any strong winds coming. So controls for high wind conditions. Secure or remove loose materials daily, not just when storms are forecast. Store tools and materials away from edge and elevated surfaces. Do not use ladders, scaffolds, aerial lifts or roofs during high winds. Lower and secure crane booms, forks, attachments when not in use. And never stand under suspended loads or partial secured materials, and maintain exclusion zones around cranes and lifting operations. Controls for heavy rain conditions. Stop work if surfaces become slippery or unsafe until made safe. Improve drainage using pumps, ditches or diversion berms. Never enter flooded trenches or excavations. Inspect trench boxes, shoring and slopes after heavy rainfall. Keep electrical tools, cords and panels elevated and dry. And use correct protection for all temporary power. So electrical safety during storms. Inspect extension cords and tools before use. Do not use damaged or wet electrical equipment. Keep temporary panels closed and protected from water. Report any tripped breaker or electrical issues immediately. And never assume power is off. Verify before touching. So what to do then, or preparation before a storm or heavy rains or high winds. So monitor daily and hourly weather forecast. Identify storm shelter locations if you have them or evacuation routes. Secure materials, equipment, scaffolds and temporary structures. Cover or relocate materials that can be damaged or become airborne. Plan work activities to avoid exposure during forecasted storms. And communicate stop work authority clearly to all workers on the requirements. Response during the storm. So follow supervisor or site management instructions. Stop work when conditions become unsafe. So do not try to finish tasks. Move to any designated areas. Stay clear of cranes, power lines, trees or tall structures. And do not drive or operate equipment unless instructed to do so. So after the storm, recovery and inspection. Do not resume work until conditions are assessed and improved. So this would include inspection of scaffolds, ladders, cranes, lifting gears, trenches, excavations, electrical systems and access roads and walkways. Watch for downed power lines or unstable structures. Remove debris using proper PPE and safe methods. And report any damage, near misses or hazards immediately. So personal protective equipment, obviously all sites have their own site requirements, should be a minimal of boots, hard hat, high vis. But for strong, windy or wet conditions, hard hats, which should be secure, so with a strap. High visibility clothing, suitable for the weather conditions. Slip resistant safety footwear to prevent slips. Eye protection and weather appropriate rain gear. Make sure that this load does not restrict movement or vision. Emergency procedures. So this should be as part of the site induction, but you should know emergency contacts and reporting processes. Know the evacuation routes and muster points. Know how to call emergency services when required, if that is your task. And then report all injuries, near misses and unsafe conditions. The worker's responsibilities is to stay alert to changing weather conditions and report as required. Follow all site rules and manufacturer's limits. Use the stop work when required, when conditions become unsafe. Look out for your fellow workers and communicate hazards. And never take shortcuts during storms or wet, windy conditions. Hopefully we don't get a lot of these conditions in the UK, but you never know. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next week.